Magnus Carlsen, the top-ranked player in the world, is so adept at the game of chess that he almost always wins. Absolute power, and occasionally to defeat him can take hours. Here are some of Magnus's opponents, where he shattered his fastest victory opponents in a matter of seconds, starting with during this matchup with Sergei Kiryakin, very powerful super grandmaster who has defeated almost everyone except this Magnus wasn't scared. And after the first few developing moves, the position quickly turns into the Roy Lopez opening, which Magnus is more than familiar with after trading the knight and bishop. Magnus instantly develops his knight knowing exactly what to do. Magnus attacks Sergei's knight, which Sergei attacks, and Magnus moves back, making Sergei think for a very long time before playing his onto g5, a big mistake. And while the best move for Sergei here is to take Magnus's bishop, he retreats another mistake. And after moving his bishop back, Magnus starts launching a huge attack, quickly bringing his pieces closer and closer to Sergei's wide-open king. Magnus takes the open file, planning to use it to attack Sergei's king. Sergei knows he has additional debt and is now in trouble. Before Magnus trades, a few more moves, rooks entering the game with his queen, which plays after Magnus is attacked by Sergei. Checkmate with queen g6 after a pawn is won. The king's fanchetto opening after both players develop their starting pieces. Magnus strikes the center, moving his pull into e4. A few more pieces are developed before both players castle, and a set of pawns are traded off. Majestine starts tapping the table impatiently with a piece a few moves after, and Magnus brings his knights into the game, having them both lining up to Augustine's king, about to prepare a deadly attack after playing his pawn to h6, and Magnus bringing his queen in. Magnus is now just looking for the killer move, which he finds after moving his rook to g6, which after Egtestin thinks about defends by moving his knight to f6, which does nothing. Magnus takes Augustine's pawn with his bishop before forcing a trade in pieces, allowing Magnus to deliver a forced checkmate. Magnus Carlsen only used 18 seconds to destroy this chess master. But in Magnus Carlsen's next game, he was about to defeat Bill Gates, the richest man alive, while only using 12 seconds on the clock. Now Magnus plays d5, quickly pressuring Gates to either take his pawn or be taken, which Gates responds to, with a third option defending the pawn with his bishop. Magnus starts with knight f6, adding more pressure on Gates's pawn, before the DNE pawns are finally traded off, bringing Magnus's queen into the equation. This move seems to confuse Bill Gates, looking at the chessboard, not being able to see which move to play. It's in this position. Plays bishop g3, putting a double pin on Gates's queen while also threatening some nasty attacks. Magnus instantly brings his knight in. He takes Magnus's seemingly free bishop, which Magnus expects, and while everything seems safe to Gates, the position is completely lost, and with Gates taking Magnus's knight like a complete beginner. But Magnus's next feat is much more impressive, as when facing a famous explorer named Lars Monsen, who is also a very strong chess player, Magnus would only have a few seconds. On his clock to checkmate his next famous opponents, Magnus starts the game by moving his pawn to e4, which his opponent responds to with c5. The Sicilian defense, and after their starting pieces are developed, and Monsen castles after Monsen moves, Magnus starts pushing pawns towards Monsen's king, creating a big attack. Monsen spends a lot of his time thinking before retreating his knight, allowing Magnus to bring his knight in and push his pawn before trading off knights, taking Monsen's pawn. The players shake hands with Monster, knowing that Magnus had completely outplayed him in a matter of seconds. After a few more moves, Monsen moves his queen to f7, allowing Magnus to capture it for free. This is a queen blunder.